Okay, I mean, there was such an uproar from the last episode that I thought I'd better get another one out quick, because, God, the fans are jumping at the bit. The bit being me, and they're jumping at me. That is, of course, all fictitious, all a lie. This is for my own pleasure. I think I sounded a bit like the guy who plays the werewolf guy in Professor Lupin or something. Professor Lupin. And he's also in Wonder Woman when I said that. So yeah, that's interesting. But of course not really. I was going to do the... I keep thinking about Sam Harris's first podcast with Jordan Peterson about the truth thing, and I think I actually kind of do finally understand Jordan Peterson's position on truth. But I likened it to, I think I've mentioned this before. I was going to make a little meme type thing out of when Marge becomes a real estate agent and is being taught by Lionel Hutz how to sell properties, not entirely truthfully. And he says, "There's the truth and the truth," and on the second one he shakes his head. And obviously, I think that's pretty much Jordan Peterson's position. But actually, Jordan Peterson's real definition would be the head shake. The truth is actually not true at all. So it's not really, even though it's true, it's the kind of truth you should know, and because you shouldn't know it, that makes it not true, which doesn't really work. It's not, well, anyway. And then it would turn to Sam Harris's. If Sam's face would obviously been mapped onto Marge's character, and he'd probably have that raised eyebrow expression, which we all know and love. Oh, Sam, what are you like? Anyway, I would, however, like to commend Jordan on his appearance on the Channel 4 News recently. His performance was nothing short of a masterclass in composure and level-headedness. And I'm sure he did it entirely for my praise. Didn't he? Yeah. I was his target audience entirely. Actually, I probably was his target audience, but, I mean, I don't really like him an awful lot, apart from that. I just thought it was very good. He really, it was a very good display of composure and level-headedness, as I said. It was very good. Really liked it. Okay. Hang on, where am I? Oh. Also in that little bout on Channel 4 News there with Kathy Newman, he mentioned something about the lobster thing. I was thinking about that lobster thing with the whole serotonin levels, and supposedly it tracks your status, your social status, or status, or whatever. And I was thinking, if that's true, then you have to hope that status is something that's not zero-sum, kind of not capped, much in the way like I believe wealth isn't capped by anything really. The total wealth of the population can increase, and therefore you can get better obviously you need to distribute the wealth more evenly, so that everyone meets the threshold level. But the actual total amount of wealth can increase as a whole. Obviously, if we were all obviously with massive leaps in technology, your wealth your actual wealth increases. So you can just don't mind. I've spoken about it before, so I'm sure it's out there. But yes, if social status can somehow not be not capped. I'm not even sure really how much I buy into this lobster idea, but if it were true, I'm not saying I don't buy into it. I'm just saying I don't know enough about it. Then you'd have to hope that it's not zero sum, because then you'd have to guarantee that some people would be losing. Well said. That was really well said. Great choice of words, Ollie. Really great. I realise it's been an extremely long time since I tackled this topic, mainly because there aren't many current... okay, I'm just going to try and read these words without being a fucking idiot. Mainly because there aren't many current occurrences that prompt such discussion. But I'm not sure I ever wondered what my position What? I'm not sure I ever worded my position as simply as I could. I might have already read this one. And I now believe I may be able to do so. If, however, I did already relate this exact phrase, oh my god, I'm a fucking moron. Relate this exact phrase, there's no harm in doing so again. Unless it is truly stupid. It is this. I believe that all people should have... Oh, God. I'm sure I already read this one. It is this. I believe that all people should have the right to vote, but all people... Oh, God, I even wrote it wrong. That doesn't help. I can't even read. Oh, never mind. It is this. I believe that all people should have the right to vote, but not all people should vote. Instead of encouraging all people to vote indiscriminately, we should encourage people to discern for themselves whether they are informed enough to vote and whether they are willing to truly invest in impartial research before they do so. So, basically, you don't want an aristocracy, you don't want a true democracy. You want somewhere... Well, you want a true democracy in the sense that everyone has the right to vote, which is what I just said, but the idea that you should vote no matter what, no matter how stupid you are and how much you know about the topic... The idea that you have to vote on every single thing is stupid. Why would you think that you know enough about everything in the world that your opinion is valuable in the discussion? Vote about the things that you know about, and you think, never mind, eh? I'm sure we'll all come out all right in the end, or not. It's certainly been a long time, apparently, since I threw my entirely conjectural hat into the heavily established by research ring of scientific study surrounding bipolar disorder. Well, what a great sentence, Ollie, just such a twat. But before, as I'd wondered whether bipolar was linked to a deficiency of dopamine, and the highs of bipolar might be caused by the dopamine levels reaching this is a really stupid one. This is just bullshit. This is honestly... and the highs of bipolar might be caused by the dopamine levels reaching a certain threshold over time, at which point all the dopamine is used in a much shorter time frame than the body can sustain, until the level drops way below the threshold again. I seem to remember that some studies suggest dopamine is not even the main contributor to bipolar disorder, but downstream mechanisms instead, but allow me to ignore that for now, so that I can spout my bullshit unhindered. Perhaps this threshold-dependent cycle can be likened to the action potential of nerve cells. That is all. What a load of bullshit and bollocks. And bullshit bollocks. I think I may understand what Sam means by losing one's sense of self. I have never experienced it for myself, but I speak as someone who believes they can recognise what's plausible from what they have experienced. In many ways, I think we generally experience life from a perspective somewhere between first and second, although in many ways third person. A sort of first and halfst person. A sort of first and a halfst person. So when we attempt to meditate for the first time, we are told to just pay attention to our breath and notice thoughts arising, but allowing them to pass and recognise them as thoughts. However, I'm going to stop doing that now because that really is annoying. However, throughout this exercise, a novice will all the while be convinced they are conducting it properly, noticing a thought sneaking in, going, "Aha, I've recognised you, thought. Now I must go back to focusing on my breath. Okay, I'm focusing." And if at any point they were asked who was focusing, they would be convinced it was them. This is what I believe is possible to be lost. It seems plausible to me that with sufficient practice, one could reach a point at which the experience becomes truly first person. You cease to exist on the cusp of this person you perceive yourself to be. You cease to exist on the cusp of this person you perceive yourself to be. There we go. And the only way I can imagine this to be is like becoming a sort of microphone to the world, registering sounds and other stimuli occurring in the vicinity, or in your vicinity, I guess, and converting them into an audible representation. Not to anyone per se. That is what would normally happen. What we think of as ourselves is someone who is listening to what the microphone hears through some super high-tech unnoticeable headphones, but this association can be lost and a more immediate connection with being the microphone felt. And I'm not sure it's particularly helpful that when beginning meditation training, an instructor is wont to say, "Close your eyes," or "Focus on your breath," because this causes one to identify with following an instruction, which almost certainly requires someone to follow them. Perhaps, although I don't know why I'd have any insight into something about which I know nothing, but perhaps replacing the instruction with just reminders of their objects, e.g. breath, 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 right arm, left arm, etc., would be favourable. Basically, what I'm saying there is, I tried meditating for a very short time, and I think I'm fucking genius. I just think, although I haven't actually felt it, I feel like the sense of self, which is so hard to get across, of what you're losing, because then you say you lose your sense of self, which is seems like a paradox. I think it's just that if you focus enough, you can kind of see that when you're trying to recognize thoughts, and you think, and you go, I recognize that thought, or right, that thought appeared. It's like you're. It just feels like you're the well, I guess I'm no better at. I was trying to be better at than Sam at explaining it. He says you're the rider on the horse of consciousness, or whatever it is, or the rider on the wave of consciousness, or something. Yeah, I guess it is hard to get across, but I think the first and a halfst person kind of describes it quite well. It's like you're not quite the person who's experiencing it. You're kind of looking at them, but you feel associated with that first and half person. So I think it's possible to go fully first person and just kind of not be any in between the sound occurring and you reacting to it. I think generally it kind of has to go through a kind of mediator, which is what you perceive to be you, but it's not. But you can actually get close to it. Not that I don't really think there's much to that, other than maybe it might affect the way you think about things. But I don't think it's necessarily more real. I think they're both pretty real. It's probably more basic and more visceral. But yeah, I've had enough talking about this shit because it's fucking bollocks. I haven't really. But the words that I wrote and read, they make sense if you read them, I guess. Bye.